Oh, get rid of the frogs. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Life Begins podcast. I'm Grace.
I'm Shell.
Oh, it's nice to see you again. Sorry, I think I'm getting into a little bit of delirium here. Every week I'm a little bit more bonkers coming in. Tired. It's nearly Christmas. But yeah,
Oh,
how you doing, Shell?
yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good. Yeah, another quick week. Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, same. It is blink and you missed it, isn't it, really? I think it's been,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, I'm quite shocked. Good grief, sorry. I'm really shocked at how close Christmas is. I'm shocked because
yeah.
I should have been going away to see my sister, family trip, Caribbean. Next Thursday, we were supposed to fly out. And that makes me
Oh,
think, oh, hang on, because we're trying to cancel the flight. Different story. Um, that makes me think Christmas is close. And I just didn't even know. I've not got into that zone, so getting there.
well, I thought it was close because we're on countdown number 2.
Number
So
two.
I
I
thought that
know.
must mean Christmas is nearly here.
Yeah, because our last Advent one is Christmas Eve Eve, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah.
Yeah, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, well, yeah, so right. But I'll let you kick us off, Shell, because yeah, you're more together than me. What are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about doubt and certainty, and amongst other things, that what we could talk about is self doubt and self
Mm.
assurance,
Ooh,
and the kind of language that we use, which kind of shows how we're feeling in terms of doubt and certainty, and also I'm interested to talk about what we can learn from different generations and also sort of different times in our life where doubt and certainty can change, where we can move up and down that continuum.
oh, that's true. Oh, so I got me
Yeah.
thinking already. Yeah, that last thing, just like with youth and stuff. Yeah, that really changes the
Yeah,
things that you're doubtful about then and what you are
exactly.
now. But yeah,
Yeah,
where do
so
you
I
want us
think,
to start? Yeah, sorry.
yeah, yeah.
It's like,
So yeah, in terms of self doubt and self assurance, I think that you know you have a for most of us you have a sort of general sort of, I don't know, I suppose, mode of operation, whether you tend to have a lot of doubts about yourself or your abilities and things like that. But I think most people probably, have a certain level of confidence and certain confidence in themselves and their abilities, but then you can just be suddenly just struck down with doubts out of
yeah,
nowhere, which don't even necessarily have any basis whatsoever,
no.
like imposter syndrome,
Oh,
or just suddenly just thinking, all the things that, that, like, whether it's to do with your dreams or whether it's things that you're good at, or feeling worthy of being in a certain place.
yeah.
It can just suddenly get you out of nowhere. Do
Yeah.
you, I mean, do you have any experience of feelings like that just coming out of nowhere?
Oh, completely, completely. Because I was gonna ask you on the question on the back of what you've just said, like if you're happy to share, but where would you put yourself on a scale from like 1 to 10? With like 10 is like you can't tell me nothing. I'm amazing, right? To like 0, I'm a worm. Like at this present moment in time, where would you be on that scale with self doubt and self confidence?
See, that's a really interesting question because my confidence
Because
is
no, I
not
said at this
consistent
present time because I
at
know
this
it changes.
at this
Yeah,
present
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, you see, I'm still finding it difficult to answer because my self-esteem and feelings about myself are
Yeah.
consistently high.
I come
They
on,
just
girl.
are.
Can't tell me
I'm you
nothing.
know and that's not about my abilities. That's not about my being the loud, happy to be the loudest person in the room, because that varies all the time, like
Yeah.
with what group I'm in, what activities I'm doing, you know, whether I feel like, oh, I'm a bit rubbish at that and things like that. But in terms of my self-esteem, which, you know, I'm very passionate about people
Yeah.
having high self-esteem, I think that's almost unshakable. So if you were asking
Come
me
on,
about
girl.
that, I could say, do you know what? Well, only because I always have my uncertainty, I'd probably give it a 9, but really I should just give it a 10.
Don't be shy. Don't doubt
You know?
yourself. If you're a 10 out of 10, you're a 10 out of 10. I'm just going to say it how it is.
Yeah, but in terms of confidence in my abilities and other things, it just varies on what I'm doing or what I'm relating it to. I don't know if that answers the question.
I think so.
What about you?
Yeah. Similar to you, me as a person, I think probably just stealing an answer from later on. That makes sense. I think as I'm getting older, that whole God, I'm me,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with me. So if you're not,
Yeah.
I feel for you. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's probably changed as I've gotten older. But at this present moment in time, to like give my own criteria, I'm probably about an 8 on stuff that's going out there or confidence in what I'm doing. But you know, you can ask me maybe in a few hours' time, and it'd be like, "Ooh, smooth 5," you know, like it depends. So yeah, so I'm kind of wanting to reach a sort of stage of that kind of equanimity when it's just like, okay, I am a consistent 9.5, or a shell 10. You know, at all times. I look forward to that, so I'm always keen to find out how to get there and stay there. Yeah, yeah, I
And
like
you
that
know, and
shell
I
10.
feel like I have to sort of, you know, put a disclaimer. It's not like I feel that I always feel like I've got stuff to learn, and
Yeah,
all those kind of things. But just how I feel about just like I'm supposed to be like this.
yeah,
This is the way I was made. There's no reason that I should worry about, how short my legs are or anything like that. There's
yeah.
nothing I could change about that. So I suppose that's where
I
I'm coming from on that.
That's it. So I keep jumping, trying to jump in on something you've said and cutting you off to jump in. But I think that's a really key distinction, actually, between like self-deprecation and humility. So what you said, like, I know I've got things to learn. That's humility. Do you know what I mean? That's because I think some people think humility is just to make yourself small, or you can't be confident about yourself, or you can't say, actually, I'm really good at this, or I'm a good person, or I've got these talents. And people think that's like being all braggadocious and stuff. And it's not. Like, you can be humble and say that, because it's like, actually, this is what I'm really good at. But the humility is saying, like, that's a gift. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know I've got things to learn. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty darn good. I mean, that's
Yeah.
okay. And I think we've got that wrong. And some people, like, we've learned a language of bashing ourselves down in to not offend people, to not say, to not look like you're bragging, and to be humble. But I think we don't know what humble means. Like, humble is
Yeah.
saying, if you are good at something, or if you do feel good about yourself, great. But I think the humility is like, for me, it's like, well, it's a gift. You know, if there's something that I'm talented at, then I should say I'm good at that, without saying, oh no, but I was really crap last week, or I'm
Yeah.
rubbish normally. But it's like, that's okay, because everyone's got their different gifts. Do you know what I mean? We've been given,
Yeah.
so it's okay to acknowledge it, and I can say, well, that's a gift from God, or that's something I've been naturally blessed with, or if I didn't have to work too hard towards it, then lucky me. Do you know what I mean? But
I think that's really important to be clear on things like where is confidence different to arrogance. So
yeah,
confidence is being confident in your abilities that you have, and then arrogance is having a mismatched sense of
yeah,
importance or what you actually can do.
yeah,
And the same with being modest and self-deprecating. See, modesty, is good. It's, accepting that, you've got room to grow and things like that. But self-deprecation can be really, well, unhealthy, but also really uncomfortable for other people. I mean,
yeah,
it can be humorous, I think that's fine to
yeah,
throw
yeah,
some
yeah,
things in, and that's great. That's, but I think you know, like I think sometimes when I've heard other people consistently self-deprecating, it feels like I'm watching somebody just like completely flogging them and abusing them, and you kind of just want to say stop doing that, and you want to kind of, you know, punch them or whatever, but you can't, because it's actually them doing it, you know, to themselves. It's, you know, it's really uncomfortable and quite sad to see, really. So I think, you know, it is really important to feel that it's okay to celebrate your gifts and your talents,
and take the praise. Do you know what I mean? It's hard when you're trying to praise someone or commend something for something they have done well, and they just won't take it. It's like, can you just take the praise? Like, stop.
It's like throwing a gift back at somebody, isn't it?
It's like, just take it. Like, I don't give it out for free. Like, well, I do, but you know, it's just there. And I know I've probably done that in the past as well. So that's something I've had to learn, to be like, thank you, and not just rubbish what they're saying, because like, well, I'm dissing your opinion now. If you're saying that I'm good, I'm like, no, I'm not really. It's like, oh, I'm just saying that you don't know anything. Actually, let me just take it. So
it can take practice, because I think I think I picked myself up on this once about accepting compliments. And you know, I think if you can just, even if you feel uncomfortable with it, just say thank you. Like, somebody's given you the gift of, you know, of a compliment, and just thank them for it, you know. So
say no more. Don't listen. Thank you. Stop there. Not no thank you, but, or thank you, oh no, just thank you. End. End.
I mean, I have that thing of like, if somebody compliments an item of clothing, I will tell them how cheap it was or where I got it. It's just as, and I have to try and stop myself.
Oh, but to me, see, that's not self-deprecation or down in it. I'm proud. If someone says, oh, that looks amazing, like, do you know what? £3 Primark. Boom. Got the bargain. Looking great. So, yeah, I don't even mind. I don't even stop myself doing that, because for a time I did. And I thought, no, because it's not out of shame or trying to humble myself. I'm dead chuffed that I paid nothing for an outfit that you think looks great. Win. So I'll keep doing that.
But and that we were talking about the difference between arrogance and, you know, and confidence, and I use my younger brother as an example of this, and we've joked about, you know, like, oh, be more Dom, you know,
be more Dom.
And he doesn't know this, but
he does now.
For example, when we were at school, we had school productions, you know, like school musicals. And so I would occasionally go for a main part, and I would, you know, I'd put myself forward for it, but I'd be saying, oh, you know, I might not get it, and, you know, I hope I do. It'd be great if I got it, but, you know, I'm not sure if I will, you know, but it'd be great. I'm going to go for it. Whereas my brother Dom would be like, oh, I'm going to get that part, you know.
Come on, Dom.
And it wasn't arrogance, because he was good at all that stuff, and it wasn't that he was bragging where, oh, well, I'm going to get this main part. He wanted it. He knew he could do it. He was going for it. So it's just kind of quite a factual thing, really. And he always did get it, you know. And I just thought, and I remember sort of thinking, oh, I'd like to think like that, but I don't. I kind of almost prepare myself a little bit for the disappointment of maybe not getting it, but I was cautiously optimistic and actually put myself forward, rather than not going for it because I thought I won't get it. But I just thought, oh, that's a really nice attitude to have, you know.
Yeah. I'm definitely, well, I do quote be more Dom to myself ever since you told me that. So just, it's a little bit of a mantra. But I think I'm getting there. With things. I mean, when it comes to like job applications, I've always done pretty well with job interviews, but that's because I've applied to things that not only do I want, but I think I can do that. That I am hitting every like requirement criteria that you're putting on that form. So to me, and then if I perform well in an interview, it's like, well, why wouldn't you give it to me? That's my thoughts. It's not an arrogant. It's like, I've hit what you want. I now like you following the interview, because I do go into interviews like, actually it's two-way. You're finding out if you like me, but do I like you? And then it's like, and I've given my best. So if you don't, that's fine. But why wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? And I have been successful in the mass, the vast majority of interviews I've gone for, but then I haven't applied for loads. Do you know what I mean? Because I think I read somewhere like the confidence with women and men is very different. Like a man will apply for a job if he hits something like, sorry, I'm all over the shop. I'm checking we're still recording. Yeah, but a man will apply for a job if he hits 60% of the requirements, and it's like, okay, we'll go for it. But a woman will look, do I hit all of them, or at least 95% of them? And that's a difference of approach. It's a bit more, be more.
That's from Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. If anyone wants to read that, it's really interesting.
Oh, hang on a minute. Sorry, Shell. You might have a technical difficulty.
Looks like it's recording for me.
No, good. Sorry, I just mean wigging out. Sorry, everyone. For the benefit of the tape, wigging out.
Along.
Yeah, exactly. We're good. Sorry, yeah. No, that's good. But yeah, it's that. Yeah, with things like that, it's good. I think my doubts come in when it comes to creative stuff, because I've always told myself I'm not creative, and I haven't been familiar with the creative process. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but something I was thinking that, so coming up with ideas, it's like I could quite quickly rubbish them, or talking, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but the sliding scale, where you are from 1 to 10, like with how confident or you feel or your lack of self-doubt. A great example is when we created the podcast, actually, because when we had the idea, I'm thinking, this is amazing, this is great, it's going to be fine, we're going to get it out there, bam, 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 bam. And then literally within weeks, it would just switch and it's like, what are we doing? Like, who cares? Like, that was my biggest thing. Who cares? Why? There's a 20,000 podcasts out. There's more than that, actually. And it's like, who cares what I have to say? So no. But then you were always like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. It's going to be good. Like, that was, oh, all right. Like, you helps me with that. And I'm learning now in just doing different things to actually have more confidence in my ideas and just go for them. And something that helps me is a bit like a be more Dom mantra. Anytime I start to wig out and think, oh no, that's rubbish, I can't do it, I think of The Masked Singer. You know that show?
Oh yeah.
That show to me is insane, right? And somebody in some big TV company, corporation, went into their, I imagine, some sort of boardroom and said, listen, I've got an idea. Let's get like singers, and some really good singers and famous people, to sing, and they can just wear this gaudy, garish prosthetic mask, and then we get other famous people to guess who they are. And I think someone who probably wasn't drunk said that out loud. Like, if I thought that, I thought, I've had a fever dream, and that's insane. That why would, I mean, Stevie Wonder hasn't done it, I don't think, but why would they do that? Do you know what I mean? And not only did obviously the rest of the boardroom say, yeah, it's been syndicated. So worldwide, there are versions of The Masked Singer everywhere for something that I would have just been like, girl, shut up.
I think the same thing about the Meerkats advert. I feel like people got to the end of a very tired day and just went, markets, meerkats, whatever, it just goes to show, like, don't just doubt your ideas, because it might just be something that takes on.
Sick, like someone thinks it's great. And even if it's just one person who thinks it's great, so what? Like, so even, when I flipped back into self-confidence with the podcast, for example, it's like, no one cares. It's like, one person might care. That's enough.
Yeah.
We care.
And I think doing that together helped, because there were probably times where I started to waver a little bit, and then you were sort of thinking, oh yeah, no, we're getting it out in October or whatever, and I think it helped just having somebody else and having somebody to, I suppose, absorb the doubt in a way.
Yes. So this is kind of a flip side to last week, where we were talking about dreaming and vision and how you need the right people to be there. The same thing with doubt. Like, you just need to have the right people, like, just to complement each other. Do you know what I mean? So times when you might be a bit like, oh, I'm not sure, and I'm like, this is ace, what are you talking about, let's go. And then there's times when I'm like, no, who cares? And you're like, oh no, because next week this is going out, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be great. Oh, because you said something to me recently, and I was like, okay, Shell. But with the be more dom energy. I can't remember exactly what it
Oh.
was, but it was like, but I was inspired. I thought, oh, Shell said it's going to happen, so it's going to happen, and we're going to win. And it was like, okay. And that really lifted me out of any, I wasn't in a deep place, but it was just like, oh, any wavering of doubt was just like, well, Shell said it's to be, so it's to be. Can't argue with that.
Oh,
Yeah, so no, that's good.
and that's why I think that that the language that we use is really, really important. And last week, I think it was last week, I was talking about, no, it was another episode anyway, I was talking about how I have to watch myself in terms of not making everything sound, yeah, just a little bit apologetic and saying I think about things that I'm sure of. And this is something I'm learning, and I catch myself doing it all the time. But one thing I find quite interesting is occasionally I have, I don't know if I'd call them disagreements with my dad. I love my dad, get on with him very well, and I'm learning things about myself, really. So occasionally we might, let's say, have a conversation about, we're watching a film, and then we think, oh, that actor, she was in a soap years ago, and we'll have a different idea of what soap that was. And so the conversation would go a little bit like this. So I'd say, oh, I might be wrong, but I think she was in this soap, or this sitcom or something. And my dad would say, no, she was in this, and then I'd say, oh, no, I don't think so. I think, I'm not sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I think she was in this program. And and my dad would say, no, you're wrong, Michelle, she was in this, Google it. And most of the time, because it is something very silly, I can't be bothered to Google it, but occasionally when I have actually found that I was right.
Did you get with your phone? You're like, see, Dad, see, nah.
And and obviously I haven't done that because I just think, oh, it's silly and it didn't matter, and I'll leave it. But I've realised that like somebody else coming into that conversation, if it wasn't immediately obvious what the right answer was, they'd be much more swayed by my dad's opinion, just because he's more confident about what he's saying. And we do tend to have confidence in people who have confidence in what they're saying. So I just think it's something to bear in mind, especially when, for example, if you're getting that imposter syndrome, just think about how you're coming across, because you probably have got the right knowledge, the right, expertise, or whatever you're talking about. But people will only believe you when you believe yourself, really, when you're sure of what you're saying. So I think it's just, I'm not sort of wanting to go completely the other way.
That's the thing, because what you're saying is a bit triggering, because one of the things I can't stand, and I've done, I think, I'll hold my hands up, is loud and wrong. Like, you're so loud, but you are so wrong. Like, that's wrong. And some people, like, because I went to an independent school. I know people saying that public schools and independent schools breed that sort of confidence. And I can't say there was a couple of examples. I couldn't say that's everything for school, but with public schools. So, for example, a lot of our politicians grew up from that privileged public school background, where that confidence arguably is bred. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are right. And in some ways, I really applaud that. I think, great. I wish we'd have self-esteem classes in schools, in state schools and across the board, like, no matter your background, that breed that confidence, to have belief in what you say. But then some people have taken someone else's share of that confidence and are dead wrong. It's like, shut up, you're wrong. And then they get to the places, like they run the country. They have opinions, and people listen to their voices in rooms and seats at grand tables. And then I see people, I've worked with kids, in my job, who don't have that confidence, but are bright as hell. And I'm like,
Mm.
it's so frustrating that, you know, you might get, I don't know, Tristan Farquhar from such and such talking about something they don't talk about, like they don't understand. And then you don't, because you've not been brought up with that confidence, you're like, oh, well, we could do that. In fact, I've got an example of that, but like, well, we could do this, but yeah, but it's rubbish. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And it's like, no, what you said is brilliant, actually. It's
Mm.
brilliant. And no one will really ever hear it because it's just been snuffed out by this lack of confidence. But then someone else is just brimming with that confidence but doesn't know anything or doesn't understand
Yeah.
anyone else. It's really, that's frustrating. It's just like, what a happy balance of that. And I try not to like show self show doubt in what I'm saying, but I do disclaimers, because a couple of times when I've said something and I've been dead sure like it's this and I have been wrong, and it's like, oh,
Mm.
okay. And it's like, well, now I say I could be wrong, but I do
Yeah.
think this. Like, if you Google me, I'm open to a fact check. That's fine. But
Yeah.
I'll put that disclaimer in if I'm not sure, because I've
And
learned
you
from.
can always put your hands up if, you
Oh,
know, afterwards, if you were wrong, say, oh, actually, you know, I did get that wrong, you know, and that's fine, you know.
yeah,
But
and I
I
will.
I do also admire that kind of that kind of public school certainty, and that sort of feeling of not going for mediocre, just going full
Yeah, I
force, you know, when
was gonna say.
so definitely it's not a bad thing, but just use it in the right way, I
Yeah,
suppose.
because there's a difference between loud and wrong and just lying and delusion. Because I was thinking about
Yeah.
Trump. Trump is a classic example of that. Loud and wrong, but then loud and delusional. And you know, it's like, wow, but you really believe that. You really believe you're the bigly best. Okay. it's, it's just wow. Okay.
It's a whole new level, isn't it? It's
It,
like
yeah,
it
we're not.
just feels surreal, doesn't it? It just,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's the
Yeah.
antithesis of self doubt.
Yeah.
It's the actual antonym of that. Like, that is not who he is. but
Yeah.
but he has other problems. That's a different episode. but yeah.
The Trump episode.
Yeah, from non-trained psychologists. Oh, but I was going to say about when you were saying about tone and how you say things. And I remember chatting to some friends once, and we were watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So it was a long time ago, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'd call you, you know, for phone a friend," and I think I'd be the worst person to call for phone a friend. Not because I would never lie. That's the thing, especially if you had like the £1,000,000 question or something, and I would say, I don't know, but this. And
Yeah.
and even my friend, it was Adam actually, and he said at the time, see, yeah, I'd say, and I said, no, I've just told you in clear English, I don't know. But then because I said,
Take
do
your chances.
right, but they say, oh, but you say it quite confidently, and it's like, no, listen to the words I say and not the way I'm saying them. There's a difference. So I don't want anyone.
Yeah.
I lost like, you know, 900 and odd £1,000 because of you. It's like, I said I don't know. So I'll be honest. I'll always tell the truth. I'm not in the loud and wrong gang. Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
But if you've got like a confidence in your voice, or a voice that people find assuring and trustworthy,
Yeah.
that can really backfire. So I can't go into you know what I mean? If you do any more of this, you will die. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So, yeah, yeah. But no, it's good.
Yeah. So going back to what you were saying earlier about how your self-assurance changes. I mean, we're always talking about, and particularly one of our episodes, that not to worry about age, you know, sort of like, oh, you're, you know, turning onto scrap heap. Because, well, I think actually, to be honest, I think for me, I feel like it goes in different stages of confidence. Like, I think as a child, you can believe that you can be the astronaut, and you can be the, you know, the pop star, and you can be, you know, all of those things. And then I think something happens in between. I think for me, I can even gauge where it happened to me. Like, I know that I was about 15 when I started to get less confident about, for example, you know, like plays and school productions and acting. I suddenly became self-conscious, and you know, I don't know why that suddenly happened at that age. And then as you get older, like whether it's kind of 30s or 40s or whatever, you start to care less about these things.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't have to have the peer pressure, you know. And I mean, if you don't do the unhealthy comparisons, you could kind of start to think these things don't matter that much. And I was reminded of this recently watching Jonathan Ross, and Michael Palin was on there, and he was saying how he kind of quite enjoyed watching back over his travels from years ago. And he said he actually got to enjoy it this time, because whilst he was doing it, I mean, he was enjoying it, but he was thinking, oh, did my nose look a bit big in that, and did I say something a bit silly to those local people and things like that. Whereas he's watching it back now going, do you know, I was fine, like I looked all right, and you know, the stuff I did, the conversations I had were actually fine. And sometimes you don't get that until sort of retrospectively, and they do say that youth is wasted on the young, you know. You kind of, you know, there's certain stages in your life where, you know, there are good things about getting older, where some of those doubts just seem a bit pointless, really.
Well, I think it's really important that it says, you know, a way to get over some of that self-doubt, because when I have moments of self-doubt, I'm feeling a bit low, sometimes I think, look at the facts, right? Because this is my feelings taking over. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at maybe what people have said that's positive. Do you know what I mean? And then what I've done that's positive, that I'm proud of. And I think what you said about Michael Palin, looking back at work he's done, it's like, do you know what? That's all right. And I've looked back on some things like, do you know, I did a good job there, or that was good, or, you know, even if it's like a sort of report from school, not that I think my mum's thrown all them out, which I'm sad about, but that's a different thing. But do you know what I mean? Like, or, you know, I keep quoting this Baz Luhrmann song. I think the Baz Luhrmann song, Everyone's Free to Wear Sunscreen, is the song of my life, because it came out in our graduation year in 1999. Very apt. I think every bit of advice in that is fantastic. In fact, for our advice episode, you know what I mean, when we did that, I could have just said the Baz Luhrmann song. That's good advice. But it was when it says something that I've done is like, you know, keep all your old love letters, but chuck out all your old bank statements or something. But basically, if it's not love letters, but things that people have said positively to me that fed back, I've kept everything. So every card, every text where it's like, oh wow. And I look back on those, and it's brilliant to be like, okay, do you know what I mean? Like, all right. Or if I've done something well, and I was thinking about when I left one of my jobs and my old boss wrote something so amazing, like, you know, you've been a pleasure. And it was in a group card, you know, when you get those giant cards, leaving cards, and it's like, anyone who has had the pleasure of working with Grace is very lucky indeed. I thought, like, wow, because they never intimated that to me when I was working but it's like, you put it in writing and that's what counts. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's like, fine. And things that God has said to me, do you know what I mean? Or, you know, like, well, God cares about me. If no one else does, he does. Or he's told me I can do this. And I think there's such a power on looking back on the good, and looking back on what's been said about you, and looking back on what you know for sure to be true. So, you know, you might be a good daughter or a good son or a good friend or whatever. It's like, that's true. Do you know what I mean? Will I make mistakes? Of course I will, because no one's perfect. Have I made mistakes? Of course I have. But generally, that's good. And I like that. That's how I overcome that self-doubt. And then sometimes you do look back and you think, do you know what, that was really good actually. And like Michael Palin, that was a good job, and it doesn't matter. Or even some of the things that were wrong or went a bit wrong, they don't matter, because overall that is good. Well done, you know.
And you've just made me think of something. You see, because I'm thinking of compliments, and I don't like to just dish them out willy-nilly. But I think actually sometimes we feel like paying somebody a compliment, and we just think, oh, we won't bother. But actually, those words can like really make a difference, and really make somebody feel certain about, you know, something they've done. And I try and remember this when you know, occasionally I want to complain about a service, you know, I think I have to remind myself that it's also important to tell people, oh, that was good. And I found this with particularly with like Zoom webinars and things, where I found something really useful, and that person, they're not seeing the audience and not getting the
Right.
reaction.
Yeah.
And so they're basically talking to a camera, so they don't know how it went. So where I just didn't, I didn't really think much of it. I did find something quite useful, and I just wrote to them and say, "Oh, that was really good, and you were really sort of energetic in that. It kept me awake." And they were like, they were, "Oh, that means a lot, because I have no idea how it went down." So I think
it's important.
do give people feedback, and just, I don't know, I think in different exercises, probably at school, we had to once go around writing affirmations on people's backs. And it seemed kind of like a sort of silly exercise, but then when you actually read your own, you're like, oh, people think that about me, and like people have noticed that or something, and so they could be really powerful.
Because in fact, I found one when I went on a trip to Israel. So this was back in '98, and we had to do that. It was a group of 10 of us, so none of us knew each other when we went out, but by the end of the trip, and you had to write a line about this person, like an affirmation, roll it over, pass it on, roll it over, pass it on. I found that when I was clearing out the office, like in here, one of the lockdown things to do, and it blessed me all over again, like 20 odd years later, and I was like, wow, it's so great. So, and you're right, I think to pay that forward and to build a culture where we do that, because it's sort of human nature to like rest on the negative, and we shouldn't, and it's powerful to pay it forward. It's really to do it for others, and
it should be meaningful. Like I don't just ditch them out willy-nilly, but I mean, like say it and mean it,
So if I just smile and nod at you, then it's like, uh-oh. No, I don't do flattery. I don't think so. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there might be an exception to that, but I don't generally. If I say something, I mean this. I think you're awesome, or you did that really well. And I think meaningful. Not just trying to like kiss up to people. It's not about that.
It's different.
That's good. That positive. So pay it forward.
And I think other ways, I'm just trying to think of other ways you can bring yourself out of that doubt. I think question, like you said, questioning the facts, what's true, surrounding yourself with encouraging people, maybe thinking about affirmations. I'm just trying to think if there's any other ways of, and sometimes it might be like we say with the existential thing, that it might be just like you have that feeling that week, and and you might feel fine another time, so don't be hard on yourself.
That's right. Although, Frank Butcher, have a word with yourself. He's like, do you know what? Take a nap, like, and then like let's get back on it. All right, later.
Let's just explain that one. Is a long time ago in EastEnders, there was a character called Frank Butcher, and at one point he just said to somebody, I can't remember what the situation was, where he said, have a word with yourself. And I think we've just since then, sometimes if we're talking nonsense in our heads, we say that to each other, have a word with yourself, or have a word with yourself.
It's brilliant, on point. So thank you, Frank Butcher, aka Mike Reed. That was great.
Good advice. It's very good advice.
All right. Well, it's good. So we're still on Advent, unless you had anything to add on self-doubt, but we're
No, I think we should embrace the theme of two.
Yes. two. So 2 more Wednesdays before Christmas. So So what's our 2 things this week, Shell?
It's tell us about 2 family Christmas traditions in your family.
All right. So I'm going first.
If you like.
Okay. All right. I was scrabbling like, what's the traditions? But just for the benefit of watching, this is my heritage.
Jamaican flag.
All right. Whoop, whoop, brap. Jamaican world and all that. One love. That's my heritage. And something that actually I say it's a tradition that we do for Christmas, but it's gone by the wayside recent years, and I'm going to encourage my mum to bring it back. We wake up and we have Christmas breakfast, and ackee and saltfish is that was our ackee, saltfish and dumplings.
What is that? Sorry.
Ackee is, I think it's a fruit. I'm going to get people like, no, it's not. It is. It's a fruit,
Oh.
and the consistency when it's cooked, it kind of looks like scrambled eggs.
Ah.
Vegetable or a fruit? Facts fans, ackee is it a vegetable or a fruit? It grows on trees. It's beautiful with saltfish, and saltfish comes. It's like dried salted fish, and like you cook it down. It's ackee and saltfish. I don't think I've done it any justice in talking. It's delicious. It's delicious, and I'm going to appeal to my mum this year to bring that back because I like that. Like waking up, we don't do presents until way later in the day, Christmas Day. But ackee and saltfish breakfast, dumplings, church. But yeah, let's bring that back. Let's bring back some JA.
Oh, lovely.
To represent, yeah. What's your first one? Mm.
Nice. Yeah, so my first one, well, we tend to in our family have a lot of Polish traditions,
Okay.
and yes, we don't do all of them, but one of the ones that I really like that we do is that for the main meal, Christmas meal, which we have on Christmas Eve, we set an extra place at the table. And I really like that tradition, and it is quite symbolic. So it tends to be kind of maybe like a saucer, instead of a dinner plate, so we all have lots of elbow room.
Right.
But it has. There's different people have different ideas about where it originated from, and we kind of probably go with two of those ideas. So for some people, it's that you would welcome an unexpected guest at Christmas, which can relate to either the Christmas story, where the stable owner sort of provided hospitality to Mary and Joseph, or it can be just because Polish people are proud of their hospitality, and also there's I don't know, there's ideas that it came from a pagan tradition where it was to do with honouring the dead, and so some people would actually sweep their chair so that they've not sat on old Uncle Fred or something like that, and then they would actually leave the Christmas meal, sort of the remnants of it, for about another couple of hours after the meal, so that the dead get to feast on Christmas as well. So but in our family, what we tend to sort of do, it's a kind of a mixture of some of those. So we tend to think of like our sort of departed relatives sort of feel like they're with us and having Christmas with us. But also it is kind of for the symbolic idea of welcoming an unexpected guest at Christmas, and that's not an open invitation for everyone around to ours, but we have done it in terms of we've tended to kind of have pre-arranged unexpected visitors to join us in that place. But also I've actually been the unexpected guest as well, because one year I was travelling back from London by car, and I'd left it a little bit too late, so I was stuck on the M4 just in what was like a car park really, and we tend to have our Christmas meal quite early. Certainly since grandchildren came along, it sort of just got earlier and earlier. And I knew I was going to miss it, and so I came off the motorway a few junctions early and just turned up at my auntie's house and sat at their table, and they had obviously set the place as well, but in a symbolic way, in that they had to go and get a proper sized dinner plate, and we were all sort of cutting up our veg with our elbows around our cheeks, but I did get to have a nice family Christmas meal, turning up as an unexpected guest at their house. So I think when I grow up as well, I'm going to keep that tradition, as it's one of my favourites.
Oh no, I like that. Because I was going to say, it's like a seat for Jesus.
Yeah, it can be a seat
It's
for
his
Jesus.
birthday after all. But no, that's a lovely thing. Sure, we'll do it. I might suggest it. They'll be like, what? It'd be good. My other tradition in our family, like I said, we have you say you have your Christmas dinner really early. We have ours really late, 3 onwards. Like sometimes it clashes with our Liz, giving her speech.
Oh.
But it's generally between 3 and 4, and we don't open presents until we have Christmas dinner. So as a child, it did teach us some patience.
Oh, yes.
So when I speak to like friends, and it's like, they wake up and it's like everything's open before like 8 a.m. It's like, what? That never had that growing up, and still now don't have it. So that's kind of nice. I think that's a nice thing. But speaking of Liz, our family Christmas tradition has been sort of to do our own Queen's speech. Like, so we do it at dinner. So we've had our dinner usually between main and dessert, and it's like we'll fill our glasses and have our roundup of the year. So we'll literally go around the table. So things, and I think it started when after 1992, and when Queen Elizabeth gave her speech, it was Annus Horribilis, when Windsor Castle burnt down, and that, well, it didn't burn down, but you know what I mean. And it sounds really horrible because we found that way. Like,
it was fine.
Yeah, she's good. She's got a few other homes. She's okay. I don't think anyone was hurt, was there? That'd be terrible.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
Watching. Oh, yeah, no, it was fine. But yeah, we quite like the phrase Annus Horribilis, and so when we've had our own Annus Horribilis, that's how we'll start. Like, oh, Annus Horribilis. but we've not had many of those recently, thank God. But yeah, we do. We have our little wrap up, the thing that we're really grateful for, and our aspirations for the next year. But I really do like that family tradition that we go through. No one's exempt. So the kiddies, like nephews when they were little, like, what? Come on, your Queen's speech.
Oh, lovely.
So no, I like that. Yeah. And
I really like that. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I'd like to introduce that to my family, but I don't think they'd be up for it.
It was all right. Move on.
Yeah. Oh, well, another Christmas tradition I actually thought was a standard Polish tradition, but it turns out it's actually just a family tradition, because I was kept asking people, they'd never heard of it.
No.
So one of our, because you traditionally have 12 dishes, 12 disciples, 12 dishes at the table, and one of those at the Christmas meal is dumplings, and they're filled with potato, spiced potato, and in our family they are so popular, like, they just go like hotcakes, and for years my mum used to do one trick dumpling, and that would be filled with flour, so completely inedible. Yeah. So the poor unfortunate person, whoever got that one, apparently that person would be getting married next. And as teenagers we just found that really like mortifying, like, oh no, who's gonna get the like dodging,
Yeah.
And actually then the last few years my mum stopped doing it, and at first I think the first year I was a bit relieved, just thinking, oh gosh, yeah, I can just tuck straight into the dumplings. But then I think afterwards I thought, oh, she's given up on me.
Let's not taunt her. Oh, it's so funny.
So it was
kind of on the number of levels, actually. Just that your mum's just pranking, like you think this whole Polish tradition, like a whole nation's been doing this. It's like, no, it's me having the jollies while I'm cooking the dinner. Like, that would be quite fun.
Yeah, so it was. I literally thought it was a solid Polish tradition, and I sort of did dread it, but then I kind of missed it when my mum stopped doing it. Yeah.
Oh, so I have a word. I'm like, listen, let's keep the hope alive, all right? Just stick some flour on one of them dumplings, eh? Be good. Michelle gets it. Oh, great stuff. Oh, that's nice. That's quite enlightening. I like your tradition.
Yeah.
So let's just over to you. What are your family traditions? Let us know, because you can follow us on our social media at Life Begins Podcast, on Facebook. Thank you. On Facebook and Instagram. Let us know. We'll drop it in. Let's share the love. And maybe if you're like me and Shell, and second generation, to hear, so you're, your heritage traditions. That'd be great to
Yeah.
hear. And some good old fashioned British traditions as well. It'd be lovely.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep in touch because this is our second one. We've only got one more week of Advent. And then it's Christmas! Well, that took it out of me, that did. Getting all this Christmas energy, which has not been present. Gone and exhausted it in one fell swoop. But yeah, but stay in touch and subscribe if you haven't already. And so you'll get episodes every week as we're coming to the end of series 3. And yeah.
And you can tweet us because we don't really use Twitter, but it might make us use it if you tweet us at Life Begins Pod.
That's the one.
Right?
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, tweet us. Get us, just give us a kick up the jacksie on Twitter.
Yeah.
I really should get into that. So yeah. Anywho, all right, that's it for this week. We will see you again last week for number 1. Gonna get copyright from the One Show. Anyway. All right, we shall see you everyone.
Bye. Bye.